Thank you for your time. This is the last presentation, and last but not least, as they say in English. Hope it's not too boring and you don't fall asleep. So, uh, thank you, Jacquino, Rene, and Prem, all the organizers of this seminar. It's been very interesting. In my presentation, I'd like to start by recalling some of the main religious assets. There are 5 religious assets that world religions have. One is meaning. They also have moral authority. They have a large number of followers, as Thomas Insua pointed out. They also have land and physical assets and social capital. I believe all these elements are important when it comes to global environmental governance and international relations. I will pinpoint 5 proposals for the international community that could prove helpful to overcome many of the roadblocks and challenges that global environmental governance is finding in its way. I will also try to relate every proposal to a particular Catholic social teaching principle. World religions can help international environmental negotiations and initiatives in 4 ways, at least. Religions can help frame the global environmental discourse. They can also help mobilize grassroots and promote action. Here we have REBAC, we've heard about REPAM, the Catholic Global Climate Movement. They can also foster meaningful dialogue between different actors. Celia Dean Drummond, she pointed out to this ability to, or this desire to establish a dialogue between different disciplines, and also the church can help different nations and different groups come together and talk. So this is a third, I believe, very important contribution. And then also the influence. They can influence politicians and decision makers in different ways at local levels, but also at global levels. And given the global nature of Christianity and its understanding of the church as a single network communion, the international community could learn from its experience and its guiding ethical principles. Now, here are the 5 proposals. Proposal number 1, move away from the Westphalian nation-state paradigm towards a bioregional and planetary paradigm in international environmental governance. And here the principle of the common good could be a guiding principle. The Amazon Synod is one of the first ecclesial meetings to take a whole biome as a reference, not a nation or a continent. Mauricio also pointed to this interesting territorial geographical dimension. There have been some precedents, such as the Columbia River Watershed Pastoral Letter signed by a group of American and Canadian bishops, but this is the first one that takes a whole biome together. Many of the challenges we are facing today can only be solved from a regional, transnational, or global perspective. Migration, environmental degradation, and financial regulation, to name just 3 of the most pressing ones. And when it comes to the ecological global commons, such as climate, water, or biodiversity, it is increasingly clear that the old nation-state paradigm is outdated and needs to be updated. The concepts of solidarity, justice, subsidiarity, communion, the common good, and especially the metaphor of a single, common, shared home where we all live in can serve as a regulatory ideal for the international community. This is also the vision conveyed by indigenous communities, or First Nations, as they call them now, around the world. The vision that is presented in the Instrumentum Laboris of the Amazon Synod. This is a vision of cooperation around shared values and a shared common good that embraces both nature and culture. World religions with global communities, like the Catholic Church, can play a key role in fostering this new vision, a vision based on a shared common good that goes beyond human beings and present generations. Proposal number 2, move away from a hard power model that puts national security at the center towards a soft power paradigm that sets global natural security as the shared goal of international politics. And here the guiding principles of solidarity, interdependence, and cooperation could be very helpful. Hard power cannot control systemic threats and global dynamics. We've seen that in Syria and in many other parts of the world. Migration, environmental degradation, and financial deregulation are recent and dramatic examples of the powerlessness of nation states in front of systemic crises. These global challenges cannot be interpreted just as threat multipliers or financial risks. They're mainly human rights issues. As Francis stated in Laudato Si, interdependence obliges us to think of one world with a common plan. The international community needs to articulate the concept of national security along with solidarity and cooperation. It also needs to move away from the old national security paradigm and adopt global natural security, where cooperation and interdependence are at the center of the debate. It needs to accept the growing conviction that our planet is a homeland and that humanity is one people living in a common home. Proposal number 3. Move away from the short-term political interests towards a long-term view that accepts the ecological debt of past actions and also takes future generations into account, discounting the future accordingly. As Robert Minani, he pointed out this idea of ecological debt and how northern industrialized countries have a duty to help developing nations financially, technically, etc. Here the concept of justice and responsibility come to the fore. Francis, again, Laudato Si, he said, a true ecological debt exists, particularly between the global north and south, connected to commercial imbalances with effects on the environment and the disproportionate use of natural resources by certain countries over long periods of time. When it comes to international negotiations on environmental issues, developed nations usually ignore both their ecological debt and their responsibility towards future generations. Here again, the Catholic Church can help international politics, can help it look deeper to the past and to the future. The Instrumentum Laboris openly criticizes extractive industries and interprets its presence in the Amazon as a neo-colonial dynamic that harms both people and nature, as a global destructive power fueled by great economic interests. The CBDR principle, or Common but Differentiated Responsibilities, was first formulated at the UN Earth Summit in Rio in 1992. This has been a very divisive principle, since it puts all industrial countries under the spotlight. Pope Francis, however, has restated the CBDR principle. As he puts it, a true ecological approach always becomes a social approach. It must integrate questions of justice in debates on the environment, so as to hear both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Catholic social teaching can help articulate the idea of responsibility, expand the notion of justice, and denounce asymmetries of power. Proposal number 4. Articulate international environmental law with insights from cultural and religious beliefs, taboos, rituals, and practices. The principles of subsidiarity, participation, and dialogue are important here. International relations are inherently dialogical and can be compared to an ongoing, permanent conversation that is inclusive and undertaken on equal footing. Dialogue and participation are key when it comes to international environmental negotiations. One of the greatest assets of Christianity and Catholicism in particular is its bridging and its bonding capacity, its ability to establish dialogues with multiple actors across nations, races, cultures, and political lines. Laudato Si itself can be interpreted as a dialogue between multiple actors or stakeholders, and the Instrumentum Laboris is also the product of a consultation, right? Mauricio, it's a dialogical process that has involved, I believe, around 80,000 people over a period of several years. So, 87,000, thank you. So the concept of integral ecology and its holistic transnational perspective calls for a transformation of international relations, since it emphasizes the implications of global socio-environmental issues on the spectrum of world politics at different scales, local, regional, and international. The concept of social ecology, closely connected to the principle of subsidiarity, may prove also helpful in this debate. Laudato si again. Social ecology is necessarily institutional and gradually extends to the whole of society, from the primary social group, the family, to the wider local, national, and international community. Within each social stratum and between them, institutions develop to regulate human relationships. Finally, proposal number 5. Articulate the top-down perspective on international environmental law with grassroots initiatives and learn from the dialogical method of ecumenical and interreligious meetings. The idea of communion and interdependence is stressed here. There is a deep Christian conviction that as part of the universe, all of us are linked by unseen bonds and together form a kind of universal family, a sublime communion which fills us with a sacred, affectionate, and humble respect. There is also a growing body of research showing that non-conventional conservation strategies based on taboos and cultural or religious beliefs can be very effective when it comes to protecting certain ecosystems. This is especially true in regions like the Amazon or the Congo River Basin, traditionally managed by indigenous communities that have a worldview where they see themselves as part of a larger communion. Same thing with Asian communities that Pedro knows so well. Religions can promote a sense of interdependence, and thanks to their ability to create community bonds, generate social capital. They can help the international community build networks of respect and fraternity. We have stressed several times the importance of networking as local communities, but also as a global faith community, and become aware of the deep interdependence of social and environmental realities. Catholicism in particular, given its political clout and its long-term experience, is already promoting a dialogue among the sciences and actors involved in the environmental debate. The Amazon Synod, or the work of the Pontifical Academy of Science and Social Sciences, are excellent examples too. The workshops organized by these two academies are excellent examples of the capacity of the Church to build bridges across different disciplines. Finally, the experience and the different methodologies used in ecumenical and interreligious encounters could also prove helpful for the international community. And I will stop here. So thank you for your attention.